You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 3 and episode number 171 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. I must admit that right now I'm a little distracted because Summer McIntosh is currently in the pool right now, swimming the 200-meter butterfly, and there's 50 meters left in the race. She is currently in the lead, and this is the race her mom swam when she was a swimmer at the Olympics as well. So I'm just like looking at the screen, and she's ahead by a lot, like by a full almost 2 meters over her closest competitor at the moment, with about 20 meters to go. So right now, although there could be a nice big finish from someone else, it's looking like it could be a gold medal for Canada at the World Aquatics Championships, and she has just touched the wall, Summer. Oh my God, Summer McIntosh just won the gold and set a new world junior record in the process in the 200-meter butterfly.
That's cool.
Wow.
Very cool. Yeah.
Wow.
Remember, she's only 16.
Yeah.
She's got a long career ahead of her.
And when she won the bronze the other day, she in the 200-meter free, she also set a world junior record there too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's the thing. She's a junior still. Like, she's 16 years old. Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
Well, her coach said she's a once-in-a-generation athlete. And can't doubt it. I mean, you know, she's just going to win everything.
And how everybody was panicking when she finished fourth in the 400 IM.
Relax.
And not the 400 IM, the 400 free. Oh, she was lazy. Oh, maybe the stress got to her. It's like, I said it. I called it. I said, it's one race.
One race.
In what will be a very long career.
Yeah.
Then she gets bronze. Then she gets gold.
Yeah, and people are panicking. I'm like, okay, she's 16. She's already set world records. She's set world junior records. People need
She's the real deal. She's the real deal.
Take a breath. Relax. She's a machine.
Jeez. Oh my God, it's so exciting. Well, hey, we start with some Canadians who make us proud and some Canadian girls kick ass. There we go. 2:04.06 time. Second place, 2:05.46. She won by 1.4 seconds.
That's a huge lead in a race. That's a massive lead.
Considering the number of swim-offs there have been, out of semifinals or quarterfinals to get into the next level.
Yeah.
I've seen at least 3 or 4 in this competition, people that ended with the exact same time who had to race an extra race.
She
Just
beat
to determine who gets to go in the final.
She
'Cause there's
beat
only
she
so many.
when second place is 1.4 seconds behind, your lead is massive. Because these are decided in tenths of a second, right? Not hundredths. They don't do
Hundred
hundredths in swimming because
No, they do hundreds.
oh, it's thousandths, sorry,
Yeah,
because they'll
they
do
don't.
thousandths in running, but they don't in swimming because of
Yeah.
the fact that every pool, although they are 50 meters in length, they can be out by a centimeter or so from one pool to the next because
Mhm.
gravitational pulls and water and flex and blah blah blah. So that's why they don't do it in thousandths of a second.
Gold! Gold! Forget it.
More to
I'm so
come. More to
excited.
come.
More to come. There's more to come. Oh, yeah, this is only, like, day 3 or 4 of swimming.
Yeah.
There's yeah, but wow. There we go. Oh, and then her
Yeah. There's
parents
her
are in the
parents. Yeah.
audience right now holding each other, giving each other a big hug. Oh my god, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it.
Did you happen to see any of the Team Canada Ireland game yesterday?
I did.
You
After
caught it
the
last night.
show, I
Yeah.
caught up, yeah.
Yeah.
That first half was yee.
Yeah. They looked really rocky out there, and I think maybe I'm merely speculating. They may have been a little bit rattled from their draw with Nigeria, where they were expected to win by like five goals, right?
Mhm,
So they looked a little rattled. Ireland looked really strong, and that
mhm,
corner goal from McCabe was
mhm,
ridiculous.
mhm,
Like bend it like Beckham. Hell, she just
mhm.
hooked it right in there. It was
Yep,
beautiful. It
yeah,
really was a thing of beauty. I was like, holy crap!
yeah, and that first half, it was like, "What happened to you?"
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Now, Canada did get a goal at the end of the first half in the
Which was
extra time.
technically
It
an own goal.
Yeah, it wasn't a spectacular goal.
It's a goal. It's football. Who cares? Goes in.
But it seemed to change everything, and I do not know what Coach Peterman, I believe it is, said.
Bev Priest.
Bev Priest, sorry. Yeah, I'm mixing both names of the
Mhm.
past coach and the current coach. What she said to them at halftime, but whoa,
Mhm. Yeah, they came out. They were
totally
a different team in the
team.
second half.
Totally different team in the second half. Now, Christine Sinclair had been benched in most of the first half and part of the second, and then had been brought in. I guess they were saving her for the game against Australia in case they needed her, but they did bring her in. She was immediately effective.
Oh yeah, yeah. She almost scored
Immediately
a couple
effective.
of times too.
Yeah,
That second half it was a completely different team. Like completely different team in the second
yeah.
half. The way they came out, fired up, and they had 5 legitimate scoring chances in that second half.
They had one shot on goal the entire first half.
Yeah, yeah.
One. This was only the second game of the entire Women's World Cup where both teams scored.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Yeah,
Well, and
they've
then
all been shutouts except for 2 matches. Now 3 with one this morning as well.
well, then the U.S. last night won 1 draw with the
Okay,
Netherlands.
so 4.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
they're in the second series of matches.
yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of teams.
It's like we're going to have to reach out to Pete because the next game is Team Canada v Australia in Melbourne.
I know.
It's like, bro, you going? You got to go. You got to go. And who do you cheer for?
Oh, oh,
You
oh,
can't be seen cheering for Canada in Australia as an Australian, but you know.
oh. Yeah, yeah. So that's Canadians making us proud on the pitch and in the pool. And we also have big news about Canadians who want to make us proud
Oh,
on the benches of Parliament.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Cabinet shuffle,
Well,
yes.
yes. So I tried
Oh,
to
that
make
old
smooth. I
chestnut.
tried to make a smooth segue there.
What?
Well, I assume someone to make us proud.
I would hope.
I would hope. Yes, we had a cabinet shuffle yesterday, and it was a big one.
Seven was it 7 in total that were shuffled in and out?
Well, more when you consider all the all the musical portfolios that have to happen, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
again, gender representation, regional, all that kind of stuff. Um, so all but 8 cabinet ministers either were switched out or changed jobs, or so only 8 cabinet members, or like Marcy Ian, for example, are in the same position
Hmm.
that they were before.
Yeah,
Um,
well,
there are
Chrystia
7 new.
Freeland's still in the same, right?
Yeah. So there are 8 total. So so the big 4. I think François Félix Champagne at uh, Industry and Innovation, Freeland at Finance, Guilbeault at Environment, that type of thing. Um, but a couple of smaller portfolios like status of women and youth and diversity and all that kind of stuff stayed with
Mm-hmm.
Marcy and whatnot. But all positions except for 8 switched. There are 7 new faces,
Mm-hmm.
4 as a result of people saying that they weren't going to run again, and then 3 just cabinet ministers that were demoted out of cabinet. Now, there could be lots of reasons for that, either poor performance or something's not obvious, like poor performance, like, for example, David Lametti, the justice minister.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes, and this is probably the case here, it's just crass politics.
Mm-hmm.
People that haven't done terrible, but haven't particularly shined or not particularly telegenic media wise in writings that are safer
Mm-hmm.
to be replaced by cabinet ministers in swing writings. Because, if your electoral district is a toss up and you have a cabinet minister, well, you might want to vote for the cabinet minister if the government gets in again, because your
Makes
district
sense.
gets some attention. So the 3 cabinet ministers that were dropped were Mona Fortier, who is the president of the Treasury Board, who we've mentioned during the show during the public service strike when she started talking about, well, we want to make sure that what they do is legal. Was like a little, you want to do that? But she did get it resolved, and she did leave some time for the labor action to go through without doing back to work legislation. So I thought that ultimately she would be okay, but not necessarily the most charismatic speaker.
Mm.
And she's in Ottawa Vanier, which is probably the safest liberal riding like in the nation.
Yeah,
It's been liberal like for like 90 years or so.
Yeah, it's not going to change hands.
So, she can afford to go to put someone in maybe in the 905.
And look, I gotta. That riding is, as you say, the safest liberal riding in the country. There's no question. It's been read for 90 years. And here's my take on that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it kind of goes back to the Alberta UCP voter who says, well, I'm voting conservative. I've always voted conservative, but Dad, these people don't want me to exist.
Mm-hmm.
There's that sort of mentality to it. It's like, well, I've always voted liberal. Yeah, that's. It troubles me that people just automatically go that way each and every time. They don't actually care to look at who is running in their riding. They don't do any reading on the policy platform or about who the member is. They just vote red.
Yeah.
And I don't care for that, right?
Yeah. Now, Ottawa Vanier is a little special because it is the area in Ottawa probably where there's the greatest concentration of francophones historically.
Yes.
And one of the 2 parties has always been a little more friendlier to francophones.
Well, this is true. I'm not denying that, but I'm just you know where I'm going with.
But if you look since like 1935, Edgar Rodolphe Eugène Chevrier, Joseph Albert Pinard, Jean-Thomas Richard, Jean-Robert Gauthier, Maurice Bélanger, Mona Fortier.
Yeah, there's a theme that runs through it, right? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's just you know what I mean.
As a Franco-Ontarian who grew up in La Basseville, in Lower Town, Ottawa, where Ottawa Vanier riding is, there's a reason why that's liberal red and has been for a long time.
And I lived there, and when I was there, I had in one election, I had voted for the Conservative candidate at the time, and in another election, I had voted for Maurice Bélanger. Only because I had a sort of a unique connection, but that's neither here nor there. But I actually
he was a good man.
He's a good man.
He's a very decent man.
He was a good man.
ALS got him.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yes. Well, I mean, and you have him to thank for our changing the lyrics back
Hmm.
to something to be more inclusive in our national anthem. People go, "Why are you changing it? It's always been in all our sons' command." No, no. The original lyrics first were en français, and then the English lyrics, which came afterwards. The original lyric in English was "Thou dost in us command."
Hmm.
So in all of us command is just changing it back, but with modern vernacular.
Yeah, and in French of the lyrics, if you were literally
Mm.
translating it, it's like your forehead is surrounded
Yeah,
by glorious flowers or florals. So like, there's no
yeah,
sons or daughters
no.
mentioned whatsoever.
And that was just, and the whole reason to change it from "Thou dost in us" to command to "All our sons command" was to support the boys that were off to Canadian Expeditionary Force in World War.
Yeah, yeah. So Ottawa Vanier, and then David Lametti is, a Montreal-based writing,
Mm-hmm.
which is very safe for the Liberals. And then, I forgot the third one who was dropped all of a sudden off the top of and Marco Mendocino,
Mm-hmm.
who had to go, who the Prime Minister showed incredible decision making once again,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because everybody expected, because Marco Mendocino is a very, very, very good company man.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Great fundraiser, great working behind the scenes, all of that kind of stuff. So he would be kept in cabinet because of that. Nope, gone, just gone. And some people are surprised, but it's understandable because, while everybody's focusing on affordability and cost of living, and while the Liberal government has been trying to do things on that front, the message has been completely eaten up by the botched gun control legislation,
Mm-hmm.
the amendment, the Bernardo thing, and then foreign interference,
And
which were
let's
all in,
remember.
and which were all his files.
Mhm. Let's remember, though, the Bernardo thing had nothing to do with him. They just
Yep.
tried to pin it on him. And he
Yep.
handled it poorly, but it had nothing to do with him.
He's the guy that couldn't stop,
Couldn't.
right, talking to media. Like,
Yeah,
he's the
exactly.
guy that went to Don Martin X number of years ago and said, like, can you give me some advice on being less partisan? And the guy just can't. The guy
Yeah,
just can't. Um, he ran away, I think it was around June 15th or something like that, when the stuff from the Bernardo stuff was at its peak. Media was coming to him, and he, who always has time to talk to the media,
mhm.
ran the other way. That day. Mendocino, another man who's not met a microphone or a camera he does not like, ran away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he had to go. So those were big elements. Um, Other things, people coming out, people coming in, you're going to get a lot of these
Why?
narratives.
Because the color of your skin.
Skin,
Run,
run,
run, run, but you just can't hide. Sorry. It's just,
I gotta love that. Whether you, and whichever version you listen to, the old one, the Love and Rockets one, or the one from Sister Act 2.
oh, actually, there's an older one. That song was originally
Oh yeah.
released in the 1960s.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why I'm saying the older one, or the one by
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry, I
yeah.
missed that. Yeah.
I forgot the name of the band already. Love and Rockets. There we go.
Yeah. So it was funny when that was a hit song back in 86 or
Mhm.
85. It was on the radio, and my dad looks at me and he started singing along, and I'm like,
How do you know this?
well,
Right.
because it was sort of an alternative, at the time.
Yep.
Like, how would you know this? You're a country guy. He's like, that song's from the 60s. I'm like, what?
Yep. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes the songs are what covers are redone so well
That yeah,
for the
yeah.
time that you wouldn't, like. I didn't. I had no clue. Venus from Bananarama was an old song too.
Shocking Blue,
Yeah, and then I
1970.
heard the old version and was like, "Oh my word, this is a
Yeah,
totally different song."
completely.
Like, I
Yeah,
mean, you get it, like the down, 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 down. You hear it in the new one too, faster beat and all that kind of stuff
yeah.
with all the other production on it. But I was
But
like,
the
"Wow, this is
arrangements
different."
changed a
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
or Knock on Wood,
Oh,
Amy Stewart.
yeah, Amy
Because
Stewart
I
from
know
the
the disco
70s.
version, right? The disco version rocks. That's a
Yeah,
banger.
didn't
Like,
know it was a
and then
cover.
yeah, and then but the slow one is like a little bluesy. Down, but
Mhm.
down, boom, but down, but
I still think
yeah,
Amy
it's
Stewart's
funky.
cover was better than the original. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, but oh yeah, sometimes it happens. But That, if you just listen to that original has a little something, has like a little laid back. Mm, mm,
Well,
mm.
it's
It's
like
got a little
Hurt.
stank to it.
Oh yeah,
Mm, you know,
like Hurt though. The Nine Inch Nails version I do love.
yes,
Johnny Cash took it to a new level.
right.
So much so that the guy who wrote it, Trent Reznor, after
Yep,
seeing the video said, "That's Johnny's song now."
yep,
The guy who
exactly.
wrote the song, right?
Yep, yep, exactly. So, you've got a whole bunch of stuff from opposition, and we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
my number one comment to you to just kick it all off, Kits, is any comment that you see or hear that involves any mention of rearranging chairs in any way, discount it.
Yeah.
Yawn, click, goodbye.
Yeah.
Completely unoriginal. And some person tried to be original. I think it was Don Martin or something like that. Like, this is not like arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. This is arranging the deck chairs on the lifeboats. Girl, please. Now, the reason this is happening is because Abacus came out with a poll that said
Mm.
that the Conservatives have a 10% to have a 10-point lead. Okay. And of course, the Conservatives recently won a by-election in Calgary Herald. Calgary Herald, not Calgary Herald. That's the newspaper.
That's, what?
Calgary Heritage. Oh crap, man.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been a night. And they won with 65.54% of the vote, whereas in the regular election they won with 57.66. It's like, oh, we increased. Yeah, okay. One more time for the back row.
Mm-hmm.
Moving from 57% to 65% in an electoral district you already own outright because you won it 57% and you already have, well, 57.66, which means 7.65% of that is superfluous vote that does not net you anything. Adding another almost 8% to that in a by-election where people don't come out as
Mm-hmm.
much, especially when it's a foregone conclusion, which in this case it is, does nothing for you. It doesn't show you've got additional strength throughout the country. It just means you're stronger where you already own everything, which does nothing for you in first past the post in a system like we have with 338 different elections where popular vote is not a thing. Not a thing. Not a thing. Okay. Now, musical chairs, yes, in that sense that, a lot of people are changing seats. That's about the only chair comment that's good. Where Kit Pasta Gabe mentioned here, Chantal Hébert made the musical chairs comment. But rearranging chairs, the ship is going down, all that kind of stuff. Come on. Come on. Right. So these are the two narratives that are fueling that from the conservative side. Now I need to go and look at the Abacus data thing to see if that is the case as well, or whether or not there actually has been a movement in their poll in Ontario. Because if there's movement in Ontario, that's one thing. If it's just, we were really mad at Trudeau and now, oh, he's done it now. We're just like, yeah. It's like, we weren't going to vote for the Conservatives because we thought they were going to get 60% in our writing already and it wasn't worth it. But now he's just made us so mad that we're going to show up and vote even though it won't make any additional difference in terms of the right. So take all of that with a salt lick. This is how we start. All right. Now, with regard to the actual shuffle, we have Lawrence Macaulay, who moves from Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defense
Mm-hmm.
to Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food. He was not at the ceremony yesterday. He was previously sworn in because he was attending the funeral of a family member. So our thoughts go out to him and his family during this time. The Honorable Dominique Leblanc, who is basically the Minister of taking care of the premiers, for all intents and purposes, Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, Infrastructure and Communities, keeps the intergovernmental affairs file, but takes on public safety and democratic institutions as well, and lets go of the infrastructure and communities part of the portfolio. So basically, the government kept him, even though he loses a duty and takes a new duty on. He's basically the person now. Public safety, democratic institutions, intergovernmental affairs. So he's there to clean up what Mendocino screwed up. Public safety, democratic institutions probably will be there to, like, talk about the election and all that kind of stuff, because
Mm.
everybody's claiming interference and all that kind of stuff. And intergovernmental affairs, he will be the guy that will be keeping principally those 7 conservative premiers happy, because he seems to have a good relationship with them and doing it well so far. And we've had the health deal, we've had the childcare deal, and there's one coming up on infrastructure where all the premiers are getting together and saying, yeah, we need money to build infrastructure, and you need to give it to us all in a lump sum and not ask any questions. And no, that's not going to happen. So, given that he already keeps them happy, no need to mess up a good thing, especially coming into an election. The last thing you want to do is run against 7 premiers as well as the opposition. So he stays. Jean-Yves Duclos, a man for whom both of us have a lot of affection and a lot of time, moves away from health to becoming the Minister of Public Services and Procurement, which is, again, he's I keep on saying the banker with a heart, so his financial skills will be used very well there. Marie-Claude Bibeau finally moves from agriculture and agri-food. I think she's been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
To national revenue, replacing another person who has been there forever, Diane Leboutillier, who she moves to Fisheries, Oceans, and the Canadian Coast Guard, which is kind of fitting for her because she's from the Gaspé region. One of the interesting things about her is that she is pretty much unilingual francophone. So, which is one of the reasons why she's always been at revenue and never got promoted much. But yesterday, she was actually able to read some of her documents for swearing in English, and did, I guess, that's shown lots of improvement, I guess, because she got a really loud bit of applause from her colleagues. I think she's generally well liked as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't make much news, which is not a bad thing. When you're a minister, you've probably never even heard of her. That's how little news she makes. She's good, but
News
she's
to
been the
me.
Minister of Revenue for pretty much 8 years. The Honorable Harjit Sajjan moves from, and now this guy, I don't know what it is, but he's got the longest titles. So he moves from Minister
Yeah.
of International Development and Minister responsible for the Pacific Economic Development Agency of Canada to President of the King's Privy Council for Canada and Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Minister responsible for the Pacific Economic Development Agency of Canada.
Does that fit on his card?
Super, like 6-point type.
Minister of a lot of stuff. There you go.
Pretty much. He's one that could have been dropped from cabinet now. But he's still there. He's not a bad person, right? Just not the most dynamic person, not the most effective speaker, but really respected by his community. And, it's not that he does a bad job, it's just not flashy at all. The Honorable Carla Qualtrough moves from Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion after the successful passage of the Canada Disability Supports Act. So her job there is done. And she goes back to being Minister of Sport and Physical Activity. The first time she entered cabinet, she was Minister of Sport, Physical Activity, and Disability and Inclusion. So she's always had part of those portfolios the entire time. But this time she's just goes to Minister of Sport and Physical Activity, which is fitting because she's a 3-time Paralympic medalist in swimming and a 4-time World Championship medalist. And hopefully, because she is one of the more delivery-focused ministers, and a pretty good communicator, maybe she will do for sport what Anand was trying to do for the military in terms of cleaning some of that stuff up. If there's somebody in cabinet that can do it, it's her.
I think so.
Done. She gets stuff done. The Honorable Karina Gould, for whom we also have all the time in the world, got a much-deserved promotion from Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, where she will be missed because she was really, 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 really good there, to Deputy Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. So she's basically the quarterback. now to make sure legislation gets through and whatnot. So that's a position where she doesn't get to make a lot of decisions in terms of programming for the nation, but she gets a lot of camera and FaceTime, especially when it comes to how Parliament is working or not, as the case may be, given that there's one party that seems hell-bent on making sure that it doesn't. But this puts a person who's an extremely effective communicator, who can talk in everyday language. Not that government hoity-toity speak, but everyday language, talking to the people about how things are running in Parliament. Probably a very good idea. And especially since PP is a little MGTOW-ish. And she doesn't care who your daddy is. Karina Gold does not care who your daddy is. Ahmad Hussein moves from the Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion, where he was not shining at all, particularly since he's more of a meek man and more soft-spoken, and going up against PP, who seems to have made housing his personal file, who's loud and bombastic. It wasn't a fair fight. To Minister of International Development. Sinead O'Connor, who I'm always a little iffy about because she's very packaged, but who did a very good job on the official languages bill because she got it passed unanimously. When does that happen? So she got a bit of a promotion, and she's now minister responsible for the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. And, sorry, my mistake. She was Minister of Official Languages and Minister responsible for Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, and now she goes to Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defense, where I think she will be good because I get the feeling that she's one of these earnest people who really does care about people.
Mm-hmm.
A bit like former minister now, Dr. Carolyn Bennett was. Not particularly a defective communicator, not very flashy, but you always got the sense that she really did care about people and was in politics not for herself. Right? She gives me this feeling as well. She just seems just a little, again, too packaged. The perfect politician in terms of the look and her diction and the manner that she speaks and whatnot. But she did get the job done. So she's getting a chance, and it's deserved. The Honorable Seamus O'Regan Jr. maintains his post as Minister of Labour because he did very well on the BC Boards thing. I know a lot of people are complaining, especially from the business community. This lasted way too damn long. But I was thinking yesterday, what's the one thing we didn't hear throughout the whole BC Boards strike thing? Because I mentioned all the clips from the news seem to be quotes from the business community. And we can't let this happen again. There was never anybody from all these business organizations like the Canadian Labour Council or the Vancouver Board of Trade or all that kind of stuff actually pressuring anybody to put more pressure on the employers to pay people well. The employees were unreasonable. We got to pass some legislation so that the employees can't strike again or can't go to a full strike again to cause so much damage. What about some legislation to make sure that employers share the damn profits? Just saying, that's an option. There's nobody talking about that. So this guy, by letting it go for 13 days, which everybody said, oh my God, was too long, gave a chance for that to happen. This government seems to be quite aware that the Bank of Canada raising interest rates is taking away people's purchasing power. And I know that the Bank of Canada is trying to curb wage growth, but it seems that this government has realized that maybe by allowing some negotiating processes to last a few days and a couple of people to get a little uncomfortable and a little panicky might end up in better deals for the workers that the government can't actually mandate itself. Saying employers, you'll pay your people more. When the government doesn't rush in the day before the strike starts to put back to work legislation, the government is basically saying employers, pay your people more without saying it.
Well,
out loud. Mm-hmm. So he's staying there, and he takes on the responsibility of Minister of Seniors portfolio. He's going to be real good at that. Yep. More coffee from Mr. Grizzly. He's going to be very good at that. He's one of these, again, another one of these public speakers who can speak to you in your language, kitchen table language. And seniors vote. And he is so charming and likable. I can just see all those little old ladies at the senior home going, "Oh, he's such a nice boy." He's gonna have me meet him out of the palm of his hand. He is charming. He really is charming. Pablo Rodriguez moves laterally from the Minister of Canadian Heritage and Quebec Lieutenant to Minister of Transport while maintaining the Quebec Lieutenant functions. Omar Algabra is stepping down as Minister of Transport and said it was going to be his last term in office. He was the fourth person whose name I was trying to remember when I was remembering the names of the people who said they weren't coming back. This might be a liability. Now, Rodriguez is very well liked in the province of Quebec, so there was no way he was going to get booted out of cabinet, even though maybe he would have deserved to. He's not the most effective communicator in English, but he is very good in French, which also helps, which is also the reason for which he's the Quebec lieutenant or lieutenant, depending how they refer to it here. He's one that could have afforded to be have been dropped out of cabinet, but like Mendocino, good organizer, good company man, so he gets to stay. The issues at transport are mostly resolved at the moment, so it should be okay with him. But should there be something happening at transport, another disruption of some kind, I'm not exactly sure that he is going to be the most effective person going to the media to explain what's going on and what government's doing about it. So you can't shore up all the holes, right? There's only so many bodies and so many skill sets. And then again, when you think about the gender diversity, regional representation, all that kind of stuff, sometimes you have to strategically place where your vulnerabilities are in your cabinet. So this might be one. Another one might be Bill Blair moving from President of the King's Privy Council for Canada and Minister of Emergency Preparedness to Minister of National Defence. I did not know until yesterday also that his middle name was Sterling. For some reason, I found that quite interesting. He's another one that a lot of people say could have been dropped from cabinet, but there needs to be a old, potentially grumpy, white man, Law and Order-ish type daddy figure somehow in cabinet for that demo, I guess. It kind of makes sense that he goes to national defense because, where else would a man like him go? He's already had public safety, and I think he's already had emergency preparedness, and, he's a former police chief. So where does a guy like that who talks like that go within government? I'm sure he wouldn't have done very well at families and development. He might have. He could have surprised us, I guess. He's going to military. He can talk the language and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people saying that putting the stereotypical old white guy in that position, particularly since Anand was being very effective, and there is the whole sexual impropriety and assault and touchiness and grabbiness and all that kind of stuff to handle within the military, that he might not be the guy because he kind of represents, at least physically, business as usual. He does point out that he did manage to diversify the Toronto police force, though, so that he does have this in them. We'll wait and see on this one. But again, where else do you put a guy like that?
Old white men deserve some representation too.
Some, yes. Some, yes. So not all. Mary Ng gets slightly altered duties. Again, I keep on saying he needs to dump her. And I keep on every time I said I keep on getting people, but she's really nice and a good constituency VP, and I met her and she's really sweet. I know, but she gave a contract to Amanda Alvaro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She didn't know that she couldn't give like that's small business to a woman who's running a small business.
The optics aren't good on that.
Was really good friends. It was such an amateur hour mistake. But she gets slightly altered duties. She moves from Minister of International Trade, Export Promotions and Small Business and Economic Development to Minister of Export Promotion, which she keeps, International Trade, which she keeps, but Economic Development. So basically lighter duties. She's no longer the Minister of Small Business, but everything else she keeps that she had before. So it's almost like a bit of a small demotion, or maybe thinking that one of the files that she does have might grow, so they need to free some time to do something else. I'm not sure if that one's a demotion or whatnot. It's kind of a treading water in a way, but she should have been dropped. She should have been dropped. I think the only reason she's still in cabinet is because Marco Mendocino screwed up so massively.
It's probably a very valid point.
He held her beer, basically, so she was able to duck and run and remain. The Honorable Jonathan Wilkinson, who is stellar as the Minister of Natural Resources, keeps the portfolio and takes on the newly created Minister of Energy duties. All the better to deal with Alberta's UCP, who think all energy is oil and gas, my kitties. Daniel Smith is like super bombastic, and everything that Ottawa's doing, he wants to cripple Alberta or hobble Alberta, I should say. Sorry.
Well, she's actively trying to opt out of CPP.
Yeah. This guy, industry guy, comes from the clean tech sector. Super calm, super organized, super knows his stuff. In fact, so while it's the perfect tone and countertone battle. Daniel Smith is loud and appeals to emotion and fear, and they can't possibly know. And he's like, well, I know that energy is more than just oil and gas. It includes, blended fuels and fuel cell energy and all that kind of stuff. And I do come from a clean tech company, so I know that it is possible. And I am incredibly reasonable. And I was the environment minister that set all the rules that the national resource industry is now going to abide by. So I kind of know my stuff because I'm the one who drew it up. So he's going to be the perfect countertone. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Daniel Smith going, the world is on fire. My hair's on fire. Watch me run. And Jonathan Wilkinson's going to be like, bitch, please. But without saying those words. Because he's a gentleman. Unlike me. I'm not always one. But this is a very smart move. One move that has confused a lot of people, along with Blair, they kind of go hand in hand, is the Honorable Anita Anand sadly leaving the Minister of National Defense position, which still needs her incredible competence. Today, I just saw and I heard in the news that the cafeteria at RMC that serves 3,300 meals a day to cadets who might grow up to be the soldiers who defend us, has had rat problems and bug problems, and that sometimes the food, particularly the meat, is undercooked, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
It just gets better and better by the moment, doesn't it?
And they've spent $27 million in 2021 to revamp the kitchen for safety and better food. And they closed their...
Wait. Hold on. $27 million to revamp the kitchen?
Yep.
Did they just build a new building?
Right.
27 million?
27 million. And then yeah. And then there was something else that they did. I can't remember off the top of my head. And apparently there are still some complaints at the moment. it has not been good. Not been good. Yeah, she leaves National Defense, but she goes to the Treasury Board. Now everybody is going, well, I mean, why? There's not a lot of visibility there. And Treasury Board is one of those portfolios where you don't not get a lot of visibility in the camera, but you're the quarterback for absolutely every single nickel the government spends. So if the government is doing this cabinet shuffle because they want to show that they are serious about the economy and serious about affordability, you now have Freeland, who is the Minister of Finance, and you have Anita Anand, who's the person that controls all the purse strings on government spending, particularly when you have short stack Polyev walking all around and saying that the whole reason that Canada is going down the economic sinkhole, even though our job numbers are good and our inflation numbers are good, and the US Fed has just said, all that talk about a recession we've been talking about for the last year and a half, that's probably going to come. That's probably not going to happen because the economy is actually quite resilient now. Well, you kind of need somebody out there who is smacking them down. That's not actually the case. So I have a feeling that Madame Anand will be probably the most visible president of Treasury Board in Canadian history, making it very clear to Pierre and conservative sycophants that the government has not been spending recklessly. I mean, think of it. When it was procurement, she did really well, particularly when it came to anything COVID. And then at defense, she was being very effective. So there's no reason to think that she won't be effective here.
She's smarter than most of us.
She's scary smart. It's frightening how brilliant that woman is. Seriously. Very seriously smart. Surprise move. The Honorable Mark Miller moves from Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, where he was doing a fantastic job and seemed to be liked, to Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship. Again, it's a deserved promotion because immigration, refugees, and citizenship is a file that is going to grow in importance, particularly with the strategy of bringing in 500,000 people per year to help us with our staffing shortages, and with the fact that with climate change, there's going to be more migrants and asylum seekers looking for refuge. And he is someone that's, again, a very effective communicator that doesn't get flustered. So he will be good in this position, but the Indigenous community may not like this. They finally, this is a white man who decided that it was probably a good idea to learn an Indigenous language. He's all in.
Well, I mean, that says something, right? But the optics, I understand. I do understand.
Well, often you hear,
but he is all in.
Yeah, often you hear from the Indigenous community is like, okay, so who are they going to shuffle us off to this time for 2 years? Well, almost nothing gets done when then they give us another person for 2 years who takes 2 years to get up on the file, and then nothing gets done, and then so they finally had somebody stable who understood the file, who could speak some of the language. I mean, well, there's 450. You can't speak all of them.
No, right? I know. Sorry, something came across my feed here that made me chuckle.
Okay. But he's going to be effective where he's going as well. Randy Boissonneau, who we've talked about on the show, another one of these very effective communicators who grandmas also will love, who can speak to you in the language of across your table and who knows his files like the back of his hand. He moves from Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance to Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Official Languages, because also it's going to be nice to have a francophone from out west speaking about official languages. Um,
And you got to remember, there's a large francophone community between Saskatchewan and Manitoba that often gets neglected.
mhm, mhm.
You know, when they say, "Well, the West is going to separate," I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's a lot of people that want no part of that, and a lot of people don't feel like they're even part of your community
Yep.
because you exclude them all the time.
And here's the other interesting thing too about this cabinet that's at this moment. While the Conservatives keep on touting the fact that Melissa Landsman is the deputy leader and Eric Duncan is in the inner circle, so the Conservatives have two. We won't talk about
Mm.
the two people on their benches that support the torture of gay children with conversion therapy, though. Shh.
Garnet Genuous, we're looking at you.
And Brandon Leslie.
The two of you can go all the way to hell and stay there.
Yeah. Let's not forget that the Prime Minister has Randy Boissonneau and Seamus O'Regan Jr., two
Mm-hmm.
proud, openly gay men who have no problem saying that they're gay when they talk to the
Yeah,
media, as opposed to Melissa Landsman.
who only conveniently trots the rainbow flag out when it suits a message that
She doesn't believe in, clearly, because she would not be working for that party if she did.
well, that's the
She
thing is
wouldn't be. She wouldn't be okay sharing a bench with two people that would have
no.
put her in a conversion therapy camp when she was a kid.
Well, and let's look a little deeper at that for a second, shall we? Because a lot of people will go, well, there's a lot of gay Republicans and gay conservatives. Yes, yes, there are. This is not our parents' conservative party. This is not the progressive conservative party that would have welcomed them with open arms. This is a party that will prop them up as a prop, literally as a prop to say, look, see, we. Meanwhile, the two guys in the back bench over there would openly torture them,
Mhm.
openly torture
Mhm.
them, and actually want to do it
Voted
by
for it.
keeping conversion. Yeah, they voted
They
for it.
voted for it. Well, Brandon
So
Leslie didn't have a chance to vote for it because he didn't. He was in Parliament when it happened. But
he
I'm sure he
wasn't.
would have
Yeah,
because he ran on it, and PB wouldn't have stopped him because he wouldn't campaign for him.
yeah, and I mean they go so low. They go so low. It's like when they're trotting out pictures of Maxime Bernier wearing a Pride shirt and marching in the Pride parade, as an ally and a supporter. Like there's no bottom with these
Oh no!
folks,
When somebody,
and I don't mean that in a
but
sexual way. Okay,
no, clearly there is no bottom.
there's no bottom. There's none.
No bottom in their right mind would want to stick around with them. But no, but you're right. These are the types of people that say, "Hey, we're throwing a limbo party." They bring a backhoe so they could dig a trench to slide under it even lower than they could. Okay, right? Shovels and
That's not a joke. That's legitimate.
it's like put that bar on the ground. Trust us, we can go under it.
Well,
We'll
and don't
find a
forget,
way.
Ms. Landsman also trots out her faith when it's convenient for the party,
Mm-hmm. How dare
right?
you call me a Nazi sympathizer? I'm Jewish and lesbian, right? That too, right? Because that kind of that pink triangle didn't come out of nowhere,
Yeah,
right,
she
Melissa?
it's she uses it when it's convenient, and like I said, that party really they just need her as a prop, and that's all she is to them. That's it.
Hello, token.
I didn't say it, but it's there. It's true. It's real. We recognize it.
Self-loathing and repression makes people do weird shit. I
Hmm.
will say it forever.
Oh yes,
All right, the Honorable Sean Fraser.
I need to fill my mug.
Mm-hmm. That's a good-looking man. I have to say. Ooh, okay. He did well handling the Safe Third Country file as Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, not to the content of everyone, because there's some people that want it gone, absolutely. But he did get the U.S. to move a little bit on it to make it possible. He gets a huge promotion to something we have been calling for on the show, but a newly shaped and much needed Minister of Housing. So there's now a dedicated Minister of Housing, not Housing and Diversity Inclusion. Ooh, drinking our coffee may give you superpowers. Ooh, okay. Um, yes, the Gen Coffee, DeMello. Yeah,
The Gen
the Gen
Coffee.
Coffee. So there's now a dedicated Minister of Housing, And the infrastructure and communities portfolio that was part of Dominique LeBlanc's portfolio has been taken away from him and given to Sean Fraser. So it's Minister of Housing, Infrastructure, and Communities, which all goes very, very, very well together. And this is probably due to the fact that the Prime Minister announced to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities last April that there was some infrastructure money coming this fall that would focus principally on housing. But other people are also asking for their one to be like, again, for broadband and roads and rail and everything else, because infrastructure, sewers, because infrastructure is more than just housing. But the government says that this first bit of money will focus specifically on housing to get more things built more quickly. And then by taking the housing along with the infrastructure and communities, they can make all of those things dovetail. Now you've got premiers like François Legault already screaming about jurisdiction because housing is a provincial thing. Well, you haven't been doing the job since the 70s, people. So at some point, how long do you want the federal government to wait before it steps in and says, we're going to help here? And they want the money in one lump sum without the government telling them what to do about it. And they most certainly do not want the governments directly funding the municipalities. So come on, government, directly fund the municipalities to help with their infrastructure projects. There's nothing that says you can't, really, if you know, right? And the premiers would certainly not like that one bit. But
I got into a discussion the other day with a gentleman about housing, and he was going on about Trudeau this, Trudeau that, and I go, hey, hold on, hang on a second here. Yeah, you have to understand his powers when it comes to housing are limited, because Jean Chrétien did two things under his term: ended the Canada Housing Program, that when the federal government used to build houses, he put a stop to that, and then he downloaded that to the provinces so they could balance the federal budget. Then the province have done nothing with it. And then Harper came along and changed the rules for foreign ownership, which drove the price of houses up through the freaking roof and continues to climb. I said, so you can't put all of this on Trudeau, because his hands are tied when it comes to what powers he has, number one. Number two, you had two previous guys who hampered him. Now, unless he's, and I don't think he's going to do anything to change the situation, honestly. I really don't. I don't, because it's not in his interest to do so. He will do what is the political thing that works best for him, because at the end of the day, he's still a bloody politician, right? He's still a politician. But unless the federal government gets back into building houses again, which it should, and I'll give you for instance of a provincial matter, there are 3,000 vacant units in the province of Saskatchewan under Saskatchewan Housing. 3,000 vacant units. Yep. This is public housing funded by the province, and they have 3,000 vacancies?
Yep. And the private builders are not building purpose-built rental units.
No, they are not.
And they're not building some that are big enough for families.
No, so here in downtown Ottawa, there have been a few new buildings. As you know, every time you come here, you see a new tower going up somewhere.
It's ridiculous.
And they were originally designed to be condos, and they've all been turned into rentals.
Yeah.
So there are 4 new buildings, 27 stories or more, at the end of my street that have opened up in the last 2 years, and they're rental properties.
But
except
how many of them are 625 square feet or less units?
Less. Most of them are 450, right? Number two, if you want to get, like my apartment's 650 square feet, which is more than enough for me, and a couple, you could have 2 people here, comfortable, but it could be a little snug at times. And I have no balcony. Now, the concern here is that if you get into a 2-bedroom apartment, well, congratulations, you're paying more than you would for a mortgage.
Exactly. So as they keep on saying, they're building units that are great for making children, but not great for raising them.
No. So, unless the federal government gets back into building houses for the Canadian public that the Canadian public can afford to rent or make a purchase, because the government could help them purchase,
as opposed to McMansions, which is what the premiers would do with the money if you just gave it to them as a lump sum and let them do what they want with it.
Well, which, kind of Dougie building along the new highway that only a few people really want, and those few people are the developers who bought all that greenbelt land that they shouldn't have had access to begin with, so that they can build McMansions. And we're gonna build houses that people need. Rich people, Doug, rich people, because I can't afford to
Yeah,
buy.
but then the rich person moves out of their house, like this, and somebody moves in, and then somewhere down the line, that one that's free over there trickles down to
No, it doesn't, because they'll just
no,
turn
because
around
then
and
it's
rent that out for triple what the current.
somebody with it once turns it into an Airbnb
Yeah.
unit. So
At one
yes,
point in time, I think 40% of the condos in downtown Toronto were vacant, and they were just being used as money laundering schemes to begin with, but Airbnb, and largely foreign owned.
yep. So as you say, I think that they do want to address the issue as best they can, but the problem is that with the supply that is not there at the moment, and then breaking in 500,000 people per year, unless you are going to, I think according to the CMHC, you would have to double building the current rate of building, and you would have to do it till 2030 before supply and demand would meet,
Mm.
even out. So we'd have to double the rate at which we're building now. When we don't have the tradespeople, we still have supply issues. And we'd have to do it for 7 straight years. So about the only thing a government can reasonably promise is to make sure that the gap doesn't continue to get wider between supply and demand. Because nobody's going to shore it up in 1 or even 2 mandates, even with a full majority.
Hmm.
Is going to take a few terms and really dedicated, and somebody that's going to want to maintain a project and keep it going for 8 to 12 years without getting bored with it, or in a you know world with a attention span that can't even last a full 24-hour news cycle.
Squirrel.
uh,
Squirrel.
Maybe not. But there is a dedicated minister of housing. It is mixed with infrastructure and communities portfolio. So all the things that go together about building healthy neighborhoods are now together in one department that's brand new, that's been called for, that's in the hands of a minister who can communicate effectively, who knows his file, and also can speak to your grandma
Hmm.
in terms that she understands. So there's been a lot of this portfolio where people that are, you'll notice, that are in the main files that are going to be talked about have people that are either effective communicators or have a proven track record of delivery as a minister.
Right.
So that's the key part of what's going on here. Mark Holland, who did very well in the extremely thankless job of leader of the government of the House of Commons, which is the quarterback, which is the job that Karina Gould now has, gets a chance to use those interpersonal skills with contentious premiers as Minister of Health. So he's going to make sure that the money that said would flow if the province or provincial premiers decide to actually access that money, because there's a couple of things that they need to do that, and it seems that they don't want to, so the money's not flowing. But hey, that's the problem. I guess Doug Ford could afford it. He's sitting on 32 billion now, right? Is it now? We moved from 22 to 32.
I'm not sure about
Is that
that.
what you wrote? Okay, so I saw 32 billion go on the bottom on the Chiron. I didn't have a chance to fully read it. So
Oh no, that was Facebook.
oh, Facebook. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
Doug Ford.
yeah.
Okay, then Doug Ford's sitting on 22 billion.
Yes.
So I'm guessing technically he doesn't need those federal health dollars, because he can always, if he wants to spend money on health the way that he wants to, not the way the federal government deems him, I guess he could use some of that 22 million and just forego.
Yeah. $22 billion in here. No, this, if you read this here, it's the second quarter revenue for Facebook was
Okay,
$32 billion.
that's
The
ridiculous.
second quarter.
Ridiculous.
Now that's not profit, that's revenue, but still,
Yeah,
that's mind bending.
yeah, that's just ridiculous. The other thing with Sean Fraser, I forgot to mention, is that because the premiers are asking for that money, and the federal government says that there is money coming at least for housing with regard to infrastructure, and all those premiers are saying, give us the lump sum money. No, that's probably not going to happen that way, because we saw the climate change plan, right? Like, we've got a backstop. You do your own thing. If you don't want to, the backstop will be imposed. There's money in it. If you don't do it, but it will be coming from us, not from you. That check, that quarterly check that people are going to be getting, that carbon incentive rebate is going to come from us. Then the childcare. Well, give us the money. We'll do it. No, there's a pool of money. There are conditions. If you want to access it, you'll come and get the pool of money and meet those conditions. And if you don't, then you'll have to explain to the voters in your province why it is that you have passed on federal money. And then the health care dollars were the same. One, they said, oh, no, 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 no. And then one by one, they fell. So this infrastructure money is probably going to follow the exact same formula. Listen, we have a pot of money here to help you build housing. And these are some conditions on it. And if you want it, great. And if you don't, then explain to the citizens of your provinces why it is they don't have a place to live. And why you had the luxury of passing on this money.
Oh, God.
The federal government's got a good thing going. They established a good way to get the provinces in line. They scream and yell for the domestic audience, and then one by one they make a deal.
Well, you saw what Jugmeat did yesterday, did you?
Mm-hmm.
He just pulled another card out of the CPC play deck and blamed Trudeau for all the housing issues. I'm like,
yep,
dude, you keep shooting yourself in the foot.
I know. This guy keeps on pretending he doesn't know the difference between federal and provincial, but he does because he was provincial.
So what? It's like, stop playing that card. Stop acting like we're stupid and don't know how it works. Stop. Just stop, man. I'm hoping I bump into him on the streets because I have a few times before, and I'll say, dude, stop playing that card. Like, stop, really.
I think what he's doing is he's seeing the CPC rhetoric that's working well in BC specifically, and he's trying to adopt some of that populist thing. Because you have to understand, right, if we want to keep the conservatives down out west, the people who decide not to vote conservative or are going to vote for another option are probably not going to vote liberal. They're going to vote NDP. So if you want to send the conservatives down to third place, the liberals have to beat the conservatives where they can. The NDP has to beat the conservatives where they can. So if the conservative rhetoric about the liberals not being good enough and all that kind of stuff is what people in that area are responding to, they just don't want a conservative saying it.
I don't like that.
I know it's not a good national strategy. It could be a good one for shoring up some seats out west, specifically where the NDP does have a base.
He gets heavily ratioed every time he does it, though.
Oh yeah,
and deservedly so.
Well, that's why the liberal NDP swing voter won't go to the NDP.
Right.
Because he's waiting to do it. But it doesn't necessarily prevent the NDP liberal swing voter from voting liberal. But the NDP voter that would never vote liberal and the conservative voter that would never vote liberal. So the areas where the vote flip is NDP conservative. Mm-hmm. If the NDP, it's like Rachel Notley, right? She's NDP, but she's really progressive conservative.
That's what she is.
Really.
She's NDP in name. She really is a progressive conservative.
Really. So, I mean, it's that kind of thing.
If people could recognize that, more people would vote for her.
Yeah. But the NDP, in certain parts of the country, have to behave more like progressive conservatives if they want to have any chance in hell of defeating the conservative candidate there. So that's probably what's going on. It's probably for domestic audience in certain areas.
But it's not a progressive conservative move. It's a conservative reform move is what it is. And that's why I hate it so much.
Yep. I hear you.
Did you see yesterday where Dougie Ford was complaining about we don't have enough firefighters to fight the wildfires in the province of Ontario after he cut the budget by 65%?
I'm glad you finished that sentence because
I can't make this stuff up. We need more fire. Doug, you cut the budget by 65%.
Again, I swear, it's like they all thought that we all watched Men in Black and it was real.
Yeah.
The neuralizer is like, oh, we don't remember what you did last week.
Oh, I have.
Wow, this is new to us.
This is a shock. If it happened yesterday, it didn't happen.
Who allowed that to happen? They should be fired.
I have a new letter from the Premier. I'm going to put this on the screen. It's a new letter from the Premier. Dear my friends, today I read a poll, spelled P-O-L-E, dear is D-E-E-R, saying 54% of the people think I only do things to help my friends and supporters, but that's absurd. U-H-B-S-E-R-D. Absurd. Because if you ask my nephew Mikey or Carolyn Mulrooney, KC or guests at my daughter's stag and doe, they will tell you that's not true. Premier. See, it's funny how my name's not Gordy. That's Barney Panofsky's best intentions. How he always okay. I mean, not only is it hilarious, but it's great satire because it's accurate. Great satire is based in truth. That's why it's great.
Mm-hmm. When it's really, really good, you have, like you said, I need to check
Yeah.
before I retweet this. Is this true?
Is this
Because this sounds true. This sounds really true.
sounds
And
really
it's
true?
feeding all my biases. Maybe I should check.
Well, this one here too. Loblaws credits profits to raising prices on things humans need to live.
Ooh, yay. Yes, that's the Beaverton.
Yes.
Yes, Kit Pete. Hello, lovely to see you. Yes, this is live. Good day, mate. And we were just talking about you, so your ears must have been ringing.
Yeah, are you gonna Team Canada and Australia playing Melbourne in a couple of days in the Women's World Cup of football? Well, I guess no, you call it soccer in Australia as well too because they have Aussie rules football. You gonna attend that match, sir? And if you are, which flag are you gonna be waving?
We need to know. We need to know. Okay, more on the cabinet shuffle. The Honorable Goody Hutchins keeps her Minister of Rural Economic Development portfolio and earns added responsibility as Minister responsible for the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, another politician who can talk to you like you're sitting at the kitchen table.
Mhm.
Pete says both flags. No, you must choose. You must. That is not allowed.
It's fine. It's fine.
um, The Honorable Kamal Khera makes a lateral move from Minister of Seniors to Minister of Diversity, Inclusion, and Person with Disabilities. We didn't get to hear much of her as Minister of Seniors, so hopefully this will give an opportunity for her to have a little more visibility. He goes, I have two hands. Okay. We'll let
So
you slide this time.
so I
Uh,
wasn't well aware of Pablo Rodriguez until yesterday.
mhm.
Uh, this is Pablo Rodriguez. Have you seen him?
Yeah, he's got the best hair in Parliament.
My goodness gracious! Like,
He's the
forget
Dos
about it.
Equis. He's the Dos Equis guy.
He is the Dos Equis guy, and he's the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah. Well, this
Um,
is why he was a good Minister of Heritage.
Heritage, Jesus.
I love words. They're my life. Uh, uh, Pascal Saint-Onge, who didn't exactly shine as Minister of Sport and Minister responsible for the Economic Development Agency of Canada for the regions of Quebec, gets another chance to prove her mettle as Minister of Canadian Heritage. Um, Minister of Canadian Heritage pretty much is a Quebec destined portfolio in Canada. It's mostly always someone from Quebec that holds it. Um, it's not that she did a terrible job at sport, to be fair. The Minister of Sport has very little direct power to affect much. They can bring attention to stuff, name and shame, embarrassed, but there's not. All these organizations are arm's length to a certain degree. So, I mean, she did what she could. Let's put it this way. Um, I guess she did well enough. But I mean, it, with all the stuff that was going on, we said the stuff about Hockey Canada, and then we found out that the para athletes were not getting on the podium money for a couple of Olympic cycles, while non-para athletes were. And then there was stuff at Curling Canada and Gymnastics Canada and Rowing Canada and Boxing Canada and Canada Soccer. And I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. Um, so, I mean, it's probably a file that you couldn't win on as well. So, I can see why she's getting another opportunity in another portfolio. But had she been dropped, that would have been understandable as well. Let's put it that way. Um, then we get to the new ministers. And I have to say that I batted 1,000 at naming none of them. People I thought might get tapped on the shoulder to get a promotion up based on their performance only did not. Again, the consideration here probably was, in addition to gender and diversity and regional representation, shoring up 7 electoral districts that might be swing. So, the new Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations is the Honorable Gary Anandasangari. I will put some photos up for the new ministers so people will be able to see. So he was for a while. I guess we have that thing doing that again. You might just have to try a couple of times.
I don't know.
I won't remove it. Just you might have to try going on and on a couple of times to see if it comes in. Now he is not coming into this portfolio with no experience because he cut his teeth as the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. There we go. So this is Gary Anandasangari. That's a name. It's going to maybe take me a couple of times to say before
Just really blurry for some
flows off
reason.
my tongue with ease. But we have him.
There we go.
There's a new department called Minister of Citizens Services, because there was trouble with passports and there's trouble with applications for certain things, and there were long lines. So there's a person now specifically in charge of making sure that services to the citizens are taken care of. And this man is from British Columbia. His name is Terry Beach. He holds an MBA from the Oxford University. Founded a tech company and co-founded a nonprofit that helped over 25,000 students obtain millions in scholarships and financial aid for their studies.
Rich, smart, and a bit of a philanthropist. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here's a promising candidate. Never heard of him. Never saw him anywhere get a news clip when he was on the backbench, but he's been brought up. The Honorable Soraya Martinez Ferrada is the new Minister of Tourism and Minister responsible for the Economic Development Agency of Canada for the regions of Quebec. She's a former city councillor in Montreal, and she created a cultural and socio-professional integration program at the TOHU, which basically is the circus arts school for the Cirque du Soleil. So somebody that established a cultural and socio-professional integration program for the performing arts. There you go. The new Minister of Mental Health and Addictions and the Associate Minister of Health is Yara Sachs. She's a former director of Toronto's Trauma Practice for Healthy Communities and a big-time community activist in the Toronto area. The new Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, probably the most bubbly minister, Jenna Suds. Oh, come on. It was just sitting right there. It was sitting right there. She's worked as an economist, municipal councillor. She was the former deputy mayor of Ottawa at one point, and a community advocate for the Canada Food Cupboard and the Ottawa Network for Education. So basically a person who believed that democracy is something that you can do, rolled up her sleeves for many years, got involved, and eventually found her way into politics.
Footnote, for those interested, Nigeria just beat Australia 3-2 in Women's World Cup. Yeah. Nigeria, who drew 0-0 with Canada, just beat Australia. So that's not good for Australia. And it's like, that's great for Nigeria. I'm just, wow.
Holy crow.
Yeah. That's big news, man.
Wow.
That's big news.
Yeah, I see the kids going, sir, I think you need to clear your notifications. Yes, I got a lot of tabs, but if you'll notice that most of them are World Swimming Championship tabs. I'm following the events.
200-meter breaststroke is about to start.
Yeah. And let's see, who else do we have? Oh, and here, this later on, I hope to be able to show a clip. But the Honorable Rechie Valdez, the new Minister of Small Business. Okay, when I say that politicians...
Could you move your cursor? It's right over her face.
Politicians are not all the same. Um, this is one.
Mm.
This lady was so honored and overcome with emotion to get the call up. Is you have to see her swearing in. It's really, really, it's so
I'll look
endearing
for
and
it then.
cute.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have a chance to show it on the show, if not today, later or tomorrow. But she is the new minister of small business. Before politics, she owned and operated a small business of her own. Interesting, she was born in Zambia and is the first Filipino Canadian woman elected as a member of parliament and appointed to cabinet.
Wow.
So making history and breaking barriers.
Cool.
And the final new face, I believe, in cabinet, yes, the Honorable Arif Virani is the new Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. That's the one that's probably going to get the most questions in terms of his departure, David Lametti. Why? Because we haven't heard anything that he's not running again, so it seems that he is, but he's just out of cabinet. Um, this man has practiced law for 15 years, has worked for a civil litigator, worked as a civil litigator, then a constitutional litigator, and he was also an analyst with the Canadian Human Rights Commission in Ottawa, and he also prosecuted war crimes in Rwanda.
Wow.
A very, very impressive portfolio. So um, that's the cabinet, folks.
There you go.
Um, that's the cabinet for you. Um, if I'm looking at this, we're going into the next election. I'm thinking that when they're talking about a reset, it is a reset, but it's a reset in the sense that when the last election was being planned originally, we thought we were going to have it in the summer. The talk was about build back better,
Hmm.
right? We're getting through COVID. We're just at the end of COVID. It's now time. We've learned a lot of lessons from COVID and all the ways that society was unjust and not okay. And we need to build back better. And we're going to take all that money and put that. And then interest rates started going up and affordability started being an issue and inflation started to be an issue. Well, to build back better, you got to spend a lot of money.
Oh, yes.
And then all of a sudden, maybe spending a lot of money was not in fashion because we had just spent a lot of money to keep a lot of people healthy and whole. Now, that election got delayed until September, and everybody says that he should have gone in the summer because he probably would have gotten that majority then. By waiting a couple of extra months, he let that moment pass. Um, and in that time, um, everybody's been talking about the impending recession that's coming,
Hmm.
which hasn't, and now, according to the US Fed, may not. And everybody's talking about affordability and all that kind of stuff. And so, housing and cost of living, and how is the economy going to transition?
Well, I,
So we've moved from we're going to have all these programs,
mhm.
childcare, dental care, reconciliation, all this stuff from the environment, helping Ukraine. All these files, most of these files, childcare and dental care helps people, but most of these files have a lot of people saying, well, we're spending a lot of money outside, do things, but what have you done for me lately? What about me? What about
Mm.
us? This seems to be a cabinet that's there to answer what about us? Delivery focused ministers like Carla Qualtrough, like Sean Fraser, like Jeanette Petitpas Taylor, like who delivered the dental care, who delivered the Canada Disability Supports, who delivered the frameworks on the environment, on natural resources that are going to, fuel where we go, who got the companies like Stellantis or Stellaris to come to Canada.
Hmm.
Those are the people that are being pushed up front, people who can talk in everyday language, like Randy Boissonneau and Seamus O'Regan Jr. and Karina Gould. They've been promoted up.
Well, here's a little thing for you. I'm going to put on the screen. The PM's new cabinet now has strong communicators in key roles. Mark Holland Health, Mark Miller Immigration, Anita Anand Treasury Board, Sean Fraser Housing, Karina Gould Government House Leader. Oliver has dominated the media for the past year. That is about to change. I would agree with that. You've got really strong communicators in those positions. So I think the narrative will shift. I really do.
Yeah.
I hope it
So,
does.
and the one thing that they often say about a government as well is that um, when it stops having a legislative agenda, it kind of dies. This looks like a government that's set to have a huge legislative agenda on infrastructure, on housing, on communities, on service delivery, on affordability, and they put the people in place in those portfolios to communicate those messages.
Mhm.
So you might start noticing a change in tone, because it's a battle of tone and countertone. And we see how PP is trying to moderate his tone a little with his makeover and the different way that he's using his voice now, and which is a little weird coming from him when I hear it. Um, this type of shuffle that's this big does not signal a prime minister that seems to have lost interest or lost energy in the file. Um, the cabinet is definitely younger
Mhm.
than it was. It is definitely much more diverse than it was. Also, not a sign of a government that is losing its passion or is out of ideas. But the ideas going into the next election are not going to be. Um, I mean, all that stuff needs to be there. If you don't have a credible environmental plan, you're going nowhere.
Mhm.
Climate change plan, you're going nowhere. So all
It-
those
it-
things
and,
need to be done.
that's absolutely true. Not only are you not going anywhere without a strong plan, but you are going to lose um, the next generation of voters.
Yeah. And you're losing on two hands, right? Two hands. You're losing the younger generation, but you're also losing a portion of the older generation who are recognizing that climate change is a national security risk.
Well, and the older generation is concerned about their children and grandchildren. It's like,
Hmm.
what kind of a planet are we leaving them?
Hmm. As well. So it's a national security risk or consideration. So the stodgy, the old stodgy, crusty, oh, well, we can't do that. Oh, what's going to cost all the money? Oh, well, now it's like, oh, but we have to do that because we can't have like 1 billion people coming across our border all
One
at
billion,
once.
1 billion,
They
1 billion.
exaggerate. You know how it is.
We have the room for that many people.
Yeah.
We could put that many people in Ontario. People go, no, we couldn't. Ontario's a big damn province.
Hey, listen, we got a country right below us that has 380 million people, and they've
Mm,
got two borders to run to. They can run to the Mexican border where things are even hotter. And there'll probably be less water and less agriculture if climate change does this thing, or they can run north. It's like people keep on thinking it's like we're going to be beating back people from Angola and whatnot. I was like, we're going to be beating back people from Phoenix, and Salt Lake City, and LA, and San Diego.
mm. Well, I'm just going to give you a
Okay.
graphic here. When somebody says, we don't have the room, okay? This is just the province of Ontario, okay? So the nation of India is 3.1 times larger than Ontario. Ontario is a single province in Canada. There are 1.5, 1.2, no, that's an older fact. That's from 2014. I think there's closer to 1.5 billion people in India at as we speak. And here's something to consider. Yes, it's 3.1 times larger. It's 3.28 million kilometers, square kilometers, and Ontario is one. I've been to India and I drove from the city of New Delhi, which is a population of 29 million, to Agra, which is about a 3.5, 4 hour drive, if memory serves. Once you get outside the city, it's nothing but fields for hours. There's nothing to see. So when you say we don't have the room, we have the room. We could take in 1 billion people. Again, we could fit most of them just in Ontario. So
Mm,
don't. I'm trying to get at the thing that we don't have the space. What we don't have is the housing for. for the number of people we're bringing in right now. And again, we addressed that earlier when the feds offloaded it to balance the budget. They offloaded it to the provinces, and the provinces have done, for the most part, nothing in the last 33 years. And let's also look at the fact that, again, like I said earlier, in Saskatchewan, there are 3,000 vacant units. Is it 3,000 or 6,000? Either way, 3,000 is too many vacant units when there are people who are homeless in the province.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Yep. Just a little World Aquatics Championship update. Kitland M said that Canada comes in fourth on the 200-meter breaststroke. That's not exactly it. We came up fourth in one of the two semifinals of the women's 200-meter breaststroke. A swimmer named Kelsey Lauren Wog has qualified for the final, which will be swum tomorrow morning during the show. So one more Canadian has made a final.
I'm not familiar with her. Is she relatively new to the team?
I think she's relatively new to the team.
Okay.
Yeah, because she's not a name I've heard. There's been a couple of people. There's been a lady named Ingrid Wilm, who's also done really well, and Sophie Harvey, who've made some semifinals or names that I haven't heard before. So the next generation is already in that pool.
Yeah.
And doing well at the World Championships, which is absolutely fantastic. And then the next event is the men's 200-meter breaststroke, in which there are two semifinals, in which I do not believe we have a Canadian mentor. Oh, no, we do. Hugh McNeil.
Oh,
we have Hugh McNeil. No relation to Maggie.
No.
Just so you know, who made it into the final. So another Canadian to cheer for, about to enter the pool. So yeah, for the shuffle, that's what I see. I see a government that's positioning itself to tackle the affordability, the housing issues, and to let Canadians know that we're not just doing stuff for the world and not just doing stuff for the virtue signaling and the, on environmental reconciliation, all that kind of stuff, but we're actually doing stuff for you. You're asking, what about us? Here, we're going to tell you what about you now.
Did you notice? I just saw this. This was from yesterday, but I just see it now. Cindy Blackstock, $23 billion First Nations child welfare settlement gets Human Rights Tribunal approval.
Yes. The Canadian Human Rights Tribunal yesterday approved a $23 million settlement.
$23 billion.
$1 billion settlement for to compensate for children and families on reserve who had been underserved by lack of funding for the child welfare system. This is a revised deal because the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal had rejected a previous deal worth $20 billion because it included some but shortchanged others. So sent them back to the negotiating table. This is the near final step. Now that this has been approved by the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, it goes to a federal court where, if it is approved, then it becomes settled. And after 16 years, a 16-year fight, justice delayed, justice denied. All those kids did not get what they were supposed to when they were in the child welfare system, and they were forced to wait an extra 16 years. Let's get this money to the kids quick. If you were 16 at the time and you happen to still be alive, you had time to get a PhD. If you could afford it, before they resolved that. Maybe we should find an extra gear. Or 2. Or 3.
Yeah.
Or even like 8 or 9. Maybe. Just saying. But it is good news. It is good news. That's one more thing off the plate. That's one more thing that we will be able to point to say that, yes, there is a serious commitment to reconciliation, because, as keeps on being saying, unless there's money attached to it, it's not real.
I just saw something from our friend David Wallace in response to Skippy going on about we're the campaign that supports whistleblowers. And David's response is that so? Hashtag Klondike Papers. Winky. Something gonna happen. I'm relishing the moment.
Oh my. Okay, that's for the cabinet thing. Do we have some time, Mr. Grizzly, or
Yeah, lots of time.
we got some time? Okay. Couple of things because we had mentioned we had that video of the UPS striker with that really fantastic hair.
Hmm.
Well, it seems the UPS and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters came to a deal.
Yep.
It represents 340,000 workers. So 340,000 workers did not go off the job. That would have been a big strike. They get an immediate raise. There's an elimination of a lower paid class of delivery driver completely. So they get moved up. And believe it or not, mandatory air conditioning in vehicles. Apparently, that was not a thing in
Yeah, I'm
2023.
surprised.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gee,
as the
ridiculous.
world gets hotter and hotter and hotter.
Yeah, ridiculous, unreasonable demands. So the workers get an immediate raise of $2.75 an hour and a commitment to a $7.50 raise over the next 5 years. Pay for part-time workers increases from 16.20 an hour to 21. Now, it was
That's a big jump.
yeah, it was very, very important that this be solved because UPS handles about a quarter of the 59 million packages delivered every day in the United States, according to the Pitney Bowes Shipping Index. So, when 340,000 people who deliver 59% of the packages that get sent all across America walk off the job, that probably could have been the most devastating strike to the economy in recent years.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the UPS one of the largest employers in the United States?
And one of the largest air companies
In the world, yeah.
in the world. They don't fly passengers.
No, just cargo.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, this is good for the union movement because the union movement has shrunk by half over the past decades in the 2 decades in the United States. And right now, there's lots of strikes. The actors are on strike, the screenwriters are on strike, nurses have been on strike, hotel workers have been on strike, university workers have been on strike. It's the year of the strike in the United States
Good.
and Canada too. 322,000 workers have gone on strike so far this year in the United States. 340,000 would have been added to that number had UPS gone on strike, but they managed to avert that, which is the highest number since 2019 when 500,000 people went on strike, according to Bloomberg, during the course of a year. Other provisions is the establishment of Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a paid holiday for all in the
Mhm.
United States, no driver-facing cameras in the truck cabs, and no forced overtime on drivers' scheduled days off. In addition, 7,500 new full-time union positions will be created, providing more opportunities for part-time workers to transition to full-time jobs if they so desire. That's a pretty good deal. Way to go. Way to go, labor. Way to go. Um, on the other hand side, because we're talking about job creation, job cuts. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has decided, they announced it as we are expanding the cuts to our team. Is how they announced that. That's really bad spin. He's firing about a third of his staff. He only raised $20 million in the last quarter, and it seems that a lot of his potential donors have already donated the maximum that they can over a campaign, so these are not small dollar donations, the ones that he's got. So he's got all his big dollar donations, and they seem to have dried up, and they have, like Trump did in his last election campaign, spending the money recklessly and foolishly, and now he can't afford everyone. So he's had to cut 38 people from his team, a third already. And
What
the
a
first
shame.
primary isn't until August, I think.
He's finished.
No, sorry, January 15th, Iowa. He's done.
He's finished.
He's
Let's
already done.
remember something too. Like, let's go back to UPS and winning air conditioning in their trucks. They also have to work in the state of Texas, right, where the governor, Greg Abbott, has done a couple of things as of late that is pretty despicable. Like, first
Mhm,
off, no more water breaks for workers, and a number of people have died as a result
mhm,
of that. Number one. Number two, throw razor wire along the Rio Grande,
mhm,
and when migrants are trying to cross the border, push them into the river with their children.
mhm.
Not making this up.
Warm and fuzzy guy.
Yeah, I'm not making it up either. I'm not being hyperbolic. This really has happened. It really took place. The emails have been shared and showed all across the web. So, him and DeSantis both need to go. They need to go to hell, stay there. But I mean, they've already punched their ticket, right? If there's a hell, they're going on the Concorde, my friends.
Yep. Absolutely. And then in another boss move, a dark Brandon move, President Joe Biden, who was recently rebuffed by the Supreme Court of the United States because he wanted to provide up to $20,000 of student debt relief to everyone, Supreme Court says you can't do that under the law that you wanted to do that. So no, we're not letting you do that. So Joe said, okay, you won't let me do that, then let's do this instead. Hello, Secretary of Education. Yeah, could you go through the loans one by one for absolutely every American who went to one of those professional schools like Corinthian College and DeVry University and stuff like that, and see if any of those income driven student loans from private lenders had any terms that were weird or not really well explained to those people that took out lots of money to go that. And if that was the case, forgive that debt entirely under the Higher Education Act. So yesterday, he forgave $130 million in student debt for 7,400 ballers who went to the College of America who were misled about loans and their career prospects. This affects students in Colorado from January 1st, 2006 to July 1st, 2020. So for about 13 years, this college got away with pulling this crap. And then the school closed, of course, in 2020. The AG of Colorado, the Attorney General, petitioned Biden to forgive the loans, which he agreed to. In total, up until then, Biden had produced $14.7 billion in relief total for 1.1 million borrowers from schools who ripped them off. And since all of that has started, 800,000 loans have been forgiven for a total of $39 billion in all, with all his deferments and forgiveness that he's done since he's become president. He has forgiven $116 billion of student loans for 3.4 million Americans.
Wow.
Despite every possible obstruction and court case being thrown into his way. That's probably something else that the Canadian government might want to consider looking at. Our student debt is not as ridiculous as it is in the United States, but especially if you want to attract some youth vote. I mean, the best thing that a government can do for students wanting to save for a down payment for a house or recent graduates is to alleviate student debt burden. Surprised that there hasn't been a lot of talk about that in Canada yet.
It's, we used to have OSAP, and I think it still exists to a certain degree, but it's done through the banks, and the banks are for profit. So,
I know, but interesting moves that he's doing he's doing over there, and it's a couple of things we could maybe learn from. I see that Kit Saucy shared with us a story about kids having been abused at the Calgary Stampede.
I was going to bring those two stories. I've got a second story up here as well. A Catholic priest in Peterborough, Ontario, charged with sexual assault and interference with a minor. And the bigwigs at the Calgary Stampede knew about the abuse of children for decades, and they did nothing. In fact, they helped cover it up. This is the real Leave Our Kids Alone scandal in Alberta, where the outraged conservative protests. And what it boils down to is they've accepted, says here, we're deeply sorry, Calgary Stampede admits liability in decades-long sex assault involving young Canadians performers. It's never a drag queen.
Yep, not a drag queen at all. Uh, so, looking at this article, the Calgary Stampede has accepted liability and negligence that the organization was aware an adult staffer with the Young Canadians had been abusing teenage boys for years before a police investigation was launched. A settlement was announced Wednesday between the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede Limited and Calgary Stampede Foundation and a number of members of the Young Canadians. The settlement agreement was reached pending any objections and the approval of a judge and a notice of settlement hearing scheduled for September 25th. This is a CTV article.
Mm-hmm.
After originally denying any wrongdoing, the Stampede has now agreed to pay 100% of liability damages, but punitive damages have not been agreed on. The exact dollar figure of damages and method in which damages will be awarded to victims has also not yet been determined. In a statement to CTV News on Wednesday, the Stampede said it takes full responsibility in the hopes of helping victims to heal. Quote, "We can't change the events of the past, but we are deeply sorry for how the victims have been affected. Our commitment to those impacted is to do everything possible to guard against anything similar ever happening again, and we have taken meaningful steps to enhance the safety and wellness of our youth participants." The person who did this was sentenced to 10 years in prison in 2018 for sexually exploitive acts related to 6 members of the Young Canadians, a performing arts group that stars nightly in the Calgary Stampede's Grandstand show. Convicted for incidents that took place for more than 2 decades between 1992 and 2014. So for 2 decades, this guy was there. He was sentenced in 2018, and they still had to wait an extra 5 years for compensation.
Well, documents filed in the lawsuit, which was launched in 2017, also allege that Philip Harima, his abusive behavior may have stretched back as far as 1987.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lawsuit alleged that one of the victims, who was just 16 years old at the time, hello pedophilia, approached a Grandstand show executive in 1988 and reported being abused by Harima.
So,
The victim claimed to have been told that his allegations could have serious consequences. He said he did not pursue the matter over fear that he may have been removed from the Young Canadians group. Imagine when you think, right? You think as an adult and you go, oh my God, because I wanted to stay with the Young Canadians, but when you're that age and that's your world.
yeah. And that's what it is. It's your world at that age.
That's how they keep you in line. That's how they keep you in line. Another victim who asked not to be named spoke to CTV about the announcement. Quote, "I think it's a step in the right direction. This is not uncommon for the Stampede to come around at the 11th hour," they said. "Victims have been going through this since the investigation launched in 2012. Victims have not been able to move on since this started." And you mentioned that other case, and I don't remember where you mentioned it happened.
Peterborough.
Peterborough.
Where they were protesting drag story time.
Yeah. And also, the RCMP has just reported that at least 70 and possibly up to 200 kids between 1988 and 2017 were abused at the Nova Scotia Youth Centre. They have established a confidential hotline. Shannon Herbert, an RCMP investigator with Operation Headwind, is quoted as saying, "We are seeking more information and we are very hopeful other survivors will connect with us when they hear about Operation Headwind. We also believe there are people in the community who have additional information. We are encouraging them to come forward as well." Class action lawsuit was filed in 2019 on behalf of 3 men who claimed abuse by a swim instructor when they were there between 16 and 18 years old, and likely, once again, not a drag queen and not a transgender person. Paging Dr. Bahira Abdul Salam.
Mm-hmm.
Paging Dr. Bahira Abdul Salam. Please come to the white privilege courtesy phone. Your allies want to talk to you.
This is the thing I had up on the screen is from a buddy of mine in the UK. He says child sexual assault is so ingrained in human society, I doubt it can ever be eradicated. I had the most dreadful experiences with the UK police and my family that I wish I had never tried to seek truth and justice. I ended up being the one who was investigated and vilified. I have no family now. And Mark and I have been friends for quite a long time. We met via Twitter, actually. God, must be 14, 15 years ago, and we've been in touch ever since. So, Mark, my heart goes out to you, buddy. At some point in time, I would like to set up a time where we could do an interview with you, because your story needs to be shared, and I would absolutely love it if we could arrange a time to sit. The three of us could sit and have a chat. We'll record it. We won't do it live. We'll record it because it's difficult subject matter, and if you want, we can have a look at it. And if you think there's anything you don't want in the interview to air, not a problem. We're always open and amended to taking care of our guests in the manner that they wish to be
Yes.
taken care of.
Yes. Absolutely. So, Mark, if you you don't have to answer now.
No. He actually, we had spoke about this some time ago, and he was open to an interview, and we want to tell his story, and it needs to be told.
Yeah.
Because and somebody said, well, when I talked about this with another friend, he goes, well, he's in the UK. I go, yeah, but he was sexually assaulted as a child.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story that needs to be told.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah. So
this is a show about general culture, not just Canadian politics.
Yeah. So just I want you to know, because I have not had no interaction, no heat, no pressure.
No.
And it's not a time limited offer. So when you are ready,
we'll figure something out and make it happen.
Figure something out, and yes, the platform is yours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in your own time when you're ready. But you have a home here.
Yes,
so, and we are willing.
So and Mark, because Mark's watching on Facebook, I'd suggest, Mark, find us on YouTube, because if you find us on YouTube, I'll put the link to our channel to this one, so you can click on the link. And the reason I want you to join us on YouTube is because we have an absolutely wonderful group of people that join us every morning in the chat, and I think you would find some wonderful company here. And some wonderful people you could chat with. So if you click on the link, you should see that, I hope. Yeah, it should show up. Yeah, there, it's in Facebook now. If you click on that link, that'll take you to our YouTube channel. And there you can join in the chat with everybody that's here. And nothing but love and support, man. Nothing but love and support.
Yep, absolutely. Wow.
Yeah. Heavy day.
It's a heavy day.
Let's shift gears for a bit, because that's weighing heavy on my heart right now, and I need to shift gears a little bit. I want to go towards something. I alluded to it earlier, with David Wallace, and it's in regards to Pierre Poliver yesterday, when they actually asked him about the whistleblower thing. He said, why did you pay for the whistleblower's legal fees? And his answer was basically, well, we're the party that protects whistleblowers, except, and then he ran away, like a long pause, and then left. Mm-hmm. Except the whistleblower blew the whistle on something that wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was cleared of any wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why I'm saying, it's like in the UCP with Jason Kenney, we had the kamikaze candidate. Do we have the kamikaze whistleblower here?
And of course, what's his response? I'm going to air the clip, because it's just, this is.
Does this one show him running away though?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Because the one I saw was cut before that.
This is the 1 minute and 45 seconds.
All right.
Mr. Polyev, a question on a different subject. Can you confirm that your leadership campaign paid $37,000 in legal bills for whistleblower Debbie Jodoin, and explain why this was an appropriate use of funds donated by your supporters to help win the Conservative leadership last year?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but Debbie Jodoin is a courageous whistleblower. She is a widow of a former Canadian Forces member.
Okay, I don't have the numbers in front of me. That doesn't matter. Okay, what if it was 36,254.37? Did you pay money to cover the whistleblower's legal expenses? Period. And you don't need the numbers in front of you to know whether or not you did.
Well, that whole hang on a second. That whole she's let's
Oh, yeah, the
just back
widow.
it up. Yeah. So
is a courageous whistleblower. She is a widow of a former Canadian Forces member.
reminds me of this. Like, so what? So what that she like? What does that have to do with the question you were just asked? He's
No,
trying to
it's
reframe it, right?
well, it's just she's been through so much. She's a widower. She didn't have the money, so
Let's keep rolling.
Who was speaking up against wrongdoing at great personal peril to herself.
Wrongdoing that was proven to not be actually a thing.
yeah, alleged whistleblower, alleged wrongdoing.
Alleged wrongdoing.
And it is entirely appropriate to defend whistleblowers. And when I am Prime Minister, we will defend.
You will never be Prime Minister. You will never be Prime Minister.
And even if you were, you would
all whistleblowers.
I'm sorry, say that again, sir.
And even if you were Prime Minister, because I knew what he was going to say, we will defend all whistleblowers. I knew where it was coming. You can predict where the script is going before it happens. You will not. He will not.
We will defend all whistleblowers so that they have the courage and the freedom they can have the courage, but also the protection to speak out against wrongdoing without fear that they will be destroyed by legal intimidation coming from those with deep pockets.
Without fear that they'll be destroyed. Hello, has everybody seen what you just did to David Johnston and Hang Dong?
And David Johnston wasn't blowing the whistle. He was just overseeing what the whistleblowers did.
Yeah, and the people that ruined Hang Dong's life were also alleged whistleblowers. Yeah. Would you pay their legal bills too?
This guy's so full of shit.
God. Thank you. The following question will be the final question. This will be from Stephanie Levitz of the Toronto Star.
God, he looks awful.
Thank you for taking our questions, Mr. Poilievre. Just to follow up on my colleague Ian Bailey there, I take your point about whistleblowers. Why was your campaign in particular the one that ought to have paid this bill?
Because we're the campaign that supports whistleblowers.
Okay, thank you very much. This concludes the press conference.
Thank you very much.
Official opposition leader Pierre Poilievre in Timmins, Ontario, responding to today's cabinet shuffle. Now, if for Justin Trudeau.
Okay, not so much a runaway as a
non-answer, and I'm leaving.
Well, somebody declared. He stayed, declared the thing over. So, I mean, not so much a runaway, but yeah.
We're the campaign that supports whistleblowers and says nothing else after that.
But the journalist needed to say something else there.
Agreed.
There was a pregnant pause. There was tons of time for painfully obvious follow-up question.
Yeah, and they let it go. I guess it's because one question, and you could ask a follow-up.
Well, what made her worthy? What made her claim worthy of not only protection from the party, but also you spending political donation money that is generally subsidized by the taxpayer on acquiring information from a alleged whistleblower that turned out not to be true, and you paid that money to benefit your campaign, and you reported it as election issues matter.
Well, one of the follow-ups I hear is somebody says, not a fan of Pierre Poilievre, but he didn't run away. The scrum was called. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, but we have to be really precise, because run away, right, is the thing. He's being asked a question, and he says, thank you, that's it. And he declares it, and he walks away. There was such a pregnant pause, and he stood there and waited to see if there was someone else, and then someone called it. So
he could have actually answered the
question
question
to say run away.
Yeah, you're right. It was a big stretch. He said he could have actually answered the question, and somebody responds, that was an answer.
It was an
So in your
answer.
mind, it was an answer. So in your mind, it was appropriate for a CPC leadership contestant to pay the legal fees of a whistleblower who later turned out to be a proven liar. Was a justifiable campaign
That was the
expense?
painfully obvious follow-up question that there was time for because there was the pregnant pause, but I guess the journalist didn't expect that as an answer, so wasn't ready for it. But you always have to have the first question, what you think, what you know the answer is, what you think the answer is going to be, and a follow-up question prepared for either. Ready to go before you ask that first question, or else you just go like, So, did you do that? No.
No.
Not no because, not no why, just no. Would you care to elaborate on that, please? Why did you not do that? What motivated that decision? You need another question because sometimes you get caught. Sometimes they actually will answer the question, but only the question specifically asked with as few words as possible, like in this case. Come on, journalists, you got to up your game, man. Got to up your game.
This is from yesterday. There's so many headlines, there's so many stories, it's hard to keep on top of everything, but I thought I'd mention this. Quebec will mostly ban the use of private health agencies starting next year. It says here that the government of Quebec announced, where did it go? Government of Quebec announced that a draft regulation will gradually prohibit, except for exceptions, okay, the use of private agencies and self-employed workers in the health and social services network. The pre-publication of the draft regulation stems from the adoption of the bill aimed at limiting the use of private agencies in the network. Minister responsible for social services, Lena Dunham, added that when the use of the agency remains permitted, regulations containing several new measures will be applied. Good. Set the example the rest of Canada needs to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are we near the end, Mr. Grizzly?
Yeah, I think so. We're 2 hours down, and I don't think there's anything else that's really pressing that I wanted to share.
Okay.
I think I've got everything. Although I did see this today, and I thought I clipped this. I'm just going to put it on the screen because we're going to be applying this a lot in the future, I think. This is Don Rickles. I see you've set aside this special time to humiliate yourself in public. We're going to be using that a lot. There's another one here that I saw, and I'm like, I'll put this on this screen. It's offensive, but I'm going to put it on the screen, and then I'm going to tell you what my response to this is. Okay, so it says, this is a Christian-based private yard sale. No LBGQ supporters. Send all the gays. Send the entire Rainbow Coalition. Send them
They're
all.
okay with trans people. They forgot the T.
Yeah, they must be. Flood the zone.
Send all the transgender people.
All of them.
Send them all. Oh, man. Okay, the 200-meter breaststroke semifinal results are in. Unfortunately for Team Canada, Hugh McNeil finished last in the semifinal and will not advance to the final. But that was already an impressive performance from a newer member of the team. So, again,
I think making the team is a huge accomplishment. Getting to a semifinals, it's a big accomplishment, right? So, way to go, Hugh.
Yeah, and let's see what else happened. I think the 4x200 meter freestyle, women's 4x200 meter freestyle relay happened, and Canada finished 5th. Another 4th or 5th. We are the champions of 4th or 5th.
It's okay. It just bodes well for the future, right?
It bodes well for the future. Absolutely. And this is without Penny.
Yeah, Penny's not. Yeah, that's right.
And possibly without Summer. In this race as well, the 4x200. Still pretty good. And I think the men's 4x100 freestyle relay finished 4th. So again, with the men with no huge stars, we have Josh and we have Ilya, but they still haven't. Josh has won medals at the World Championships. So but not as big stars as ladies. So we're there. We're knocking on the door. There's still another year. So lots to be excited.
And the Olympics are next year, right?
Right.
In Paris. So
yes. Yes.
I mean, world championships winning the world championship is a huge, massive achievement. You are the world champion. But there's something about an Olympic gold medal
Oh, yeah.
that changes your life in ways that is incomprehensible to the winner at the time.
Absolutely.
And anybody who's ever won one will say your life is about to change in ways you can't even begin to understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so before we leave, just to put the bookend on the cabinet shuffle, as I was mentioning about housing, Sean Fraser, um, who's now the new Minister of Housing, also has access to the Housing Accelerator Fund to help him meet his objectives. And we forget this, because I'd forgotten this, but the federal government is on record as saying that it plans to eliminate chronic homelessness by 2030. We'll see how that happens. There are some interesting projects like people buying old buildings and then converting them into small temporary shelters, smaller, units for temporary sheltering and housing. And you could probably reduce a lot of chronic homelessness in that way by converting and changing the purposes of buildings and spaces that are not being used as much, because you don't have to build full-size apartments. When we talk about the tiny shelters, someplace that people can sleep and maybe have a bar fridge and lock some possessions away and be safe at night behind a locked door with a roof over their head. So there's probably lots of moves that you can do to make a dent in that fast enough, the chronic homelessness part. But that's still not housing first.
No, like Linda says, 2030 is not that far away. It's 6.5 years. And if you think, 6.5 years, that's a long time. Yeah. When somebody says to me, so 30 years ago, I go, yeah, so like 1973. No, Paul, that was 1993. Oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly.
The last 3 years have been a blur for all of us. So the next 6, it's not that far away.
Exactly. The Prime Minister talked about this being a positive start for a pivotal moment when talking about his cabinet. He's on the record as saying, "We know times are challenging, but this is the team that is going to be able to continue the hard work, rolling up their sleeves and delivering for Canadians from coast to coast to coast." This gives me the impression that there will probably not be a speech from the throne when Parliament returns, because he's talking about specifically continuing the work. And to be totally honest, even though this could warrant a speech from the throne and an opening of a new session, when you're already accused of virtue signaling and spending too much on pomp and pageantry and all that kind of stuff, just go back to the regularly scheduled programming and keep the same legislative agenda and don't let things fall off the order paper and go with the new team, especially if you're saying it's just continuing. Christopher Freeland also had a quote that had a bit of a moment for me as a PR guy. The intent, of course, was good, but you know how people twist things. So she said, "Our government is very, very focused going forward on the economy on delivering for Canadians." Again, delivering for Canadians. They need to change some of that jargon. The middle class and those wanting to join it in delivering for Canadians are words that get said a lot in the liberal messaging track, and they need to update that stuff. That's getting a little old and crusty. But our government is very, very focused going forward on the economy, on delivering for Canadians. We know affordability continues to be a challenge, and we are laser focused on that. So right now, it is all about skating hard, scoring goals, and maybe checking some people pretty hard into the boards. Now, I like that, and that's a little cheeky, but as a PR guy, all I'm hearing is that quote, slowed down with the ominous music. Christopher Freeland says, maybe checking some people pretty hard into the boards. Which people? The oil and gas industry? She's picking winners and losers, right? You can see the ad. Just slow it down, put that ominous music on it, the movie announcer voice. So I was like, yeah, it was cheeky. It was a cheeky little comment. And let's be honest, there are some people that do need to be checked hard into the boards.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically the greedy people when it comes to the economy. But that's a PR moment that can work for you or against you. But it definitely gives material for someone to use. And you usually don't try to do that in politics. But hey, good for you. Good for you. the main thing we need to mention is that while the government wants to change the message track on spending, and Anita Anand will help, because basically the Treasury Board president is the chief operating officer, right? So if she's given some visibility, like, Christopher Freeland says some, and then she comes in to bat the cleanup on that, it could be a very effective 1-2 punch. So I would watch for that. But the main thing that is going to be important here is that all these younger new ministers, more diverse ministers excited to be in this job, none of that is going to matter if the top circle, so the Freeland, Joly, Champagne, Trudeau, smaller group on top, Anand, if their message track is limp or sclerotic, all of this is going to have been for naught. So at the absolute top level, there has to be a re-energized message track and set of goals or priorities, or this is not going to work. There's time for this to work, especially if we take 2 years before the next election. These people are going to get to know their files, are going to develop some public personality, are going to have a chance to make a couple of decisions and implement a few things that they can run on. So this is happening early enough. If this was 6 months before an election, or we thought that the supply and confidence agreement was a little shaky, all that rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic's talk would be valid. But as Evan Scrimshaw said, there's absolutely nothing in the polling and the data that he's seen that lets him know that this is government that's in trouble, or that we're talking about a change election specifically. So the Conservatives still have to make an effort to put up a more viable and a better program. And again, they've got nothing on the environment, which is a non-starter. Speaking of Evan, did you see that he was on Charles Adler's show yesterday? Yes, I heard that he was going to be. I didn't have a chance to see it yet. I only watched a few minutes. I'm going to watch it later today. But yeah, I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. So along with Al Gabra, who mentioned that he was first elected in 2006 and has run in 6 election campaigns since. He's lost 2, won 4. Yeah. It's time. I've given out the office. Thank you very much. Helena Jasic, Joyce Murray, and Dr. Carolyn Bennett are the other 3 who are not returning of the cabinet ministers. Al Gabra says that he will finish his term, however. So he's not looking to just jump ship. So that's all I got with regard to all of the cabinet. It will be interesting to see what happens. But before we go, I really wanted to show this because this young lady, she stole my heart yesterday. She stole my heart. So this is Rechie Valdez. The new, I can't remember what her title is now. The new, there we go, Minister for Small Business. And please, kids, enjoy this. Her being called up and her reading her swearing in. It just warms the heart.
Rechie Valdez.
Can you go full size, please?
Small business. Madame Rechie Valdez. Ministre de la Petite Entreprise.
Mabuhay. I, Rechie Valdez, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors. So help me God. Moi, Rechie Valdez, je jure fidélité et sincère allégeance à Sa Majesté le Roi Charles III, Roi du Canada, à ses héritiers et successeurs, ainsi Dieu ne soit aimé. I, Rechie Valdez, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty King Charles III as a member of His Majesty Privy Council for Canada. I will, in all things, be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated in council. Generally, in all things, I shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for His Majesty. So help me God. Moi, Rechie Valdez, je jure solennellement et sincèrement que j'agirai un fidèle et loyal serviteur de Sa Majesté le roi Charles III, en ma qualité de membre du Conseil privé de Sa Majesté pour le Canada. Je m'exprimerai fidèlement, honnêtement et en toute vérité, mon sentiment et mon opinion sur toutes choses traitées, débattues et résolues en français. Je tiendrai secret tout ce qui me sera confié ou révélé en cette qualité, ou tout ce dont il sera traité secrètement et conseillé. J'irai en toutes circonstances comme il convient à un fidèle et loyal serviteur de Sa Majesté. Ainsi Dieu me soit en aide. I, Rechie Valdez, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to do the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust repose in me as Minister, Small Business. So help me God. Moi, Rechie Valdez, je promets et jure solennellement et sincèrement que mieux de ma compétence et de mes connaissances, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de ministre de la petite entreprise. Ainsi, Dieu me soit en aide.
Look at that embrace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She is proud.
Oh, yeah.
She is proud. Look at that smile. Okay.
So I got something to share.
You have the kids going, no question, she means every word. She has fire within her. I love her. And, of course, she's already being attacked. Of course, because she dared to be human and show emotion, right?
Hang on, I'm going to show you something. I got two graphics here I'm going to show you. We're just going to pull this down. I've got two graphics I'm going to share with you right now. So this is the Conservative Party of Canada. Welcome to Trudeau's new cabinet, where Liberal ministers think they should have control over Canadians' personal medical decisions. New cabinet, same Liberal. Hamilton Spectator, September 15th, 2021. Now we go over here to Patrick Brown, who was torpedoed by his party. Mm-hmm. Congratulations to Rechie Valdez, appointed as a Minister of Business. She is a true trailblazer as the first woman MP from Filipino heritage to serve in the House of Commons and now in the cabinet. She has a strong attachment to Captain and has regularly supported our, I don't know, I don't have the rest of the tweet, that's all it is, but the difference between the party and somebody who tried to lead that party, and who was torpedoed under bullshit circumstances that were proven to be false allegations.
Yep.
I don't even know what to say anymore some days, you know?
I hear you. I hear you.
So we'll wrap it up. I'm gonna place a link in the chat here for something that I think you should give a watch if you have a moment. We'd be remiss if we didn't close out the program by making mention of the fact that I did write it in the blurb that Sinead O'Connor passed away yesterday. We don't know what the cause of death was. That's not been released. The family's keeping it private. That's their business, so they can. We lost a hell of an artist.
We did. We did. Um, Original artist, um, somebody who walked her own path. I remember when she tore the picture up of the Pope on Saturday Night Live, and then a couple of days later, she was doing a concert somewhere else.
Madison Square
And
Garden.
then yep, and she had been pressured to recant that, and she said, "Nope."
Nope. And then
She
they
stood
booed her,
back.
tried to boo her off stage, and they sent Chris Christopherson out to pull her off stage, and he didn't do that. He embraced her, leaned into her ear, and said, "Don't let the bastards get you down."
Yeah. I learned yesterday that about a year ago, her 17-year-old son had also
She never
passed
recovered from
away
that.
as a result of a suicide. Um, she's been through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, no idea on the cause or how or why, but yeah, very, very sad. Everybody remembers her, of course, for the Prince cover of Nothing Compares to You. Um, I, my personal favorite was Put Your Hands on Me.
Mine is The Last Day of Our Acquaintance.
Mm.
And I have a video here I'll put in the link because we can't show it because we'll get taken down.
Yeah.
But I'll put a link to this was Rotterdam in 1990, and she just absolutely knocks it right out of the park on this one. So check both those videos out. The first one is I think her last live performance on RTE1 September 6, 2019. Of Nothing Compares to You, and she still had her voice. She never lost her voice.
Mm. If you're into Canadian politics, there's another passing to report. Former MP, cabinet minister in the Mulroney government, and journalist Pat Carney
Oh,
passed away at the age of 88. She's pioneered roles for women in Canadian politics and journalism, according to CTV. She's also a past senator. She was the first female Conservative member of Parliament elected in British Columbia and the first female Conservative appointed from the province to the Senate. She was born in Shanghai. I did not know that. In May 1935, and was educated in Canada and worked as a journalist and economic consultant in the Northwest Territories and Yukon. So a big loss. When I started getting interested in politics was around 1984, and Pat Carney was a big name at the time, and she didn't take any guff, like at all. So yeah, thank you for your contribution to the country. She was also key in the free trade agreements. Former Senator Hugh Segal said her role in the free trade negotiations, quote, was seminal, clear cut, and demanding. She brought a Pacific Coast sensibility to discussions that would have been otherwise only about Central Canada, as is often the case in the city, Segal told the Senate in 2007. And she was a former president of the Treasury Board as well, the position that Anita Anand has now taken. So, yes, you can be the president of the Treasury Board and have a very memorable career. So, Pat Carney, thank you for your service. A true progressive conservative Canadian, like there are not very many of anymore. Mr. Grizzly?
there are a few. There's a couple in the party, but their voices are getting silenced every day. So.
Yeah.
I just something from your MP. I just came across my feed 5 minutes ago.
Yes.
This is from Mark Gerritsen. He just said, "We know that some of the most essential workers in our society can also be some of the lowest paid. The Enhanced Canada Workers Benefit will make life more affordable for up to 4.2 million Canadians with eligible families receiving up to $2,461 this year."
Nice.
It's not enough, but it is a step in the right direction. Payments arriving Friday, July 28th. So it's a step in the right direction. More needs to be done. A lot more needs to be done, but it is a step in the right direction. So I will applaud it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. We'll have a special O Canada for you from the swearing in as we come back from the credits from the Easter egg for our Easter egg. But for now, kids, That's
You're
the
not
end.
supposed to tell them what the Easter egg is, though.
I want to tell them what the Easter egg this
You
one
don't tell
because
them
I
what
want
the
people.
Easter.
But I want people to stay for this one.
I know, but they know there's an Easter egg.
I'm
so
showing leg.
we give them the surprise after.
I'm showing some leg. There is a
All
surprise.
right.
I said there's a very special, so there is a surprise, but I want people to stay for it because it's not like people haven't heard. It's not like people watching the show haven't heard "O Canada" before.
Well, and we also know that you're terrible when it comes to gift giving. You're like, I bought these for Christmas, but here, take them now.
Yes.
Like you got to learn that, man. You got to learn that.
I've showed leg only up to knee, but no thigh yet. Okay. Kids, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. I love it when you get so discouraged with me like that. You know I'm cheeky. You should expect this by now. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please let your peeps and poops know about us because you have the mouths from whom we want the word coming out, or from which I should say in this case, because mouths are not people, just attached to people. Because democracy is something that you do. Please write your media, your MPs, your senators, all of them people to let them know that you demand better, like painfully obvious follow-up questions, especially when PP tries to avoid answering them. Would have been useful yesterday. And of course, donate to the Red Cross because we are one big Canadian family and your help is needed. If you really like this podcast, you can find us on the Crier Media Network as well as all Beaver Grizzly friendly platforms. And if your platform is not Beaver Grizzly friendly, why the heck are you on it? Seriously. And if you're listening on Stitcher, please get ready to migrate because August 29th is the day it becomes a dead app. Stars and reviews are appreciated. Please, 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 please be generous. Kit Elaine says she saw only ankle but no knee. Well, you got to catch it fast. Oh, here we go. There you go. Oh, there's some Grizzly games for you. Good morning, Mateo. How are you, young man? Lovely to hear from you. I hope you've got a good day full of playing and fun and listening to your parents planned. All right? We're with you, little man. Work hard, play hard. Aha. We love to hear from you. Reach us on our Facebook, True North Eager Beaver, our Twitter feed at True Eager, or by email via truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And while we're at it, hello, Rain, and hello, Jazzy. Lovely to hear. See if you're there too. Good morning to you as well. Just give us a thumbs up. Good morning. And to the whole family, why not, eh? Kit Sadek and Kit Mohan. Hope you're doing well as well. If you want us to come to you as soon as we have something fresh off the bandwidth, then you need to go to our Podpage site. You need to take your phone and scan that little QR code that Mr. Grizzly will make appear right under us. And if you're listening, then you go to Podpage. Yeah, that's an entirely different site.
It's a different site where that's like OnlyFans.
Do not go to podcage.com. Podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen in between them. And that's where you will find us. We cannot guarantee or promise what you will, or give you any information about what you'll find if you go to Podcage. But if you go to Podpage, you will find us and you can subscribe. And since you're subscribing, because, you're a keener, and we love keeners here at the Beaver Lodge, well, why not take a little walk down to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel? And I see a lot more of you have joined. Thank you very much. Smash those buttons, as Kit Elaine says. Smash both of them, the subscribe and the like. They make us very happy when you do it. And that helps us out big time because we're first looking to reach the 1,000 milestone. Well, first we're looking at crossing 300, which we're very close, so close, but then 1,000 and then global domination.
I don't want to dominate anybody, especially the globe. I just want to reach as many people as possible.
No Beaver Grizzly world domination?
No. No. We just want to help people. No domination.
World dominators always get the backup dancers.
You can get backup dancers. We don't need to dominate anything or anyone.
We can't do this without your kind and generous support. So if you feel that we've done a particularly good show, if you're watching, you can scan the QR code that will appear by Mr. Grizzly's head. I'm not sure if the Podpage QR code appeared yet.
No,
But that
I've
will,
taken it down already.
oh, okay, good. Then that will bring you to our Eager Beaver Emergency Hydration Fund, where Caesar and Guinness and everybody else show
I
up
have
to
no
help us
idea why I'm
write the
blurry.
show. Yeah, no, everybody else show up to help us write and produce and deliver and everything that we do with the show to help bring it to you. So if you think we could use some help, I mean, look at us. Clearly, we need help. So, hey, anything that works. You go to our coffee page. Don't look at me all discouraged like that. It breaks my heart. Go to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase letters. And that's where you can make your emergency fund donation. And while we are talking about emergencies, a little thought goes out to Kit Connie, who is not feeling very well.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry, I didn't know
so
that.
we are sending you our love. Kit Connie is, if for the kits who've been with us for a while, is our point person for the Rosie project.
Mhm.
Because we here at the True North Eager Beaver are involved in a project to help provide a family in Kenya with a basic income and to help increase their food security. And I mean, we help, but
Mm.
really, this is Connie is the driving force behind all of this. She's the one that recruited us and got us involved, and makes the presentations and works really hard to get to the donations and all that kind of stuff. So, if you could send all some good beaver healing energy, kits and cubs, that would be really appreciated. I'm sure, and I'm sure Kit Connie would love it. But yes, please. Our coffee fund, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase letters. Please make your donation. We really appreciate it. Thank you. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying, until next time, dear kids, it can be a tough world out there, so be kind to and gentle with yourself. And wish me luck today. I go out to play another tennis match. I won yesterday, so I'm hoping
If
to make it 2 in a row again.
is the court outside because you guys have a rainfall warning in effect?
Yes, it's supposed to be nice by 4 or 5 this afternoon.
Okay.
Hopefully. At least it was yesterday when I booked the court. We'll see if things changed. Mr. Grizzly, words of wisdom, please.
Well, I'm going swimming after this with a buddy of mine who's come to visit for a couple of days. So we're going to go
cool.
for a swim. So I'm wearing my black Speedo today. I have it on right now, actually.
The black Speedo today.
It's the trunk, though. It's not the banana hammock. It's the trunk. I'm going swimming like right after this. So
Is that like dark Grizzly? It's like when you wear the red Speedo, things are great, but when you wear the black one, we best run and hide and duck. Ooh la la. They are the trunks. Ooh. There we go. There we go. Good luck, Douglas and Paul. Perfect time for some Speedo rants. Have your phone handy. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us before we go, please?
Yeah, we're going to have another scorcher of a day out there, so keep hydrated. If you do go out to do some sort of athletic activity in the sunshine, well, whether it's sunny or cloudy, it doesn't matter. It's going to be 35 with humidity here in the nation's capital. Stay hydrated. I would suggest taking a little bit of salt, adding a little bit of salt to your drinking water, or if you can find an electrolyte type drink. Coconut water is very good, but I've been having trouble finding coconut water as of late. It's very good to rehydrate quickly. It's a combination of electrolytes and potassium, which is
Make sure
very
you
good.
get your electrolytes.
Yeah, and you're going to need them today because it's hot. And yesterday was unbelievably hot. Not complaining, just same thing as yesterday. So you're going to go out and be in that weather. Make sure you take precautions.
And remember, as Queen Beaver always advises, HHMA. Hydrate, moisturize, accessorize. True. That's your tip for beating the heat.
My moisture is body sweat.
All right, kits. Oh my God, there's some comments. Wow, we're talking about whips and change. I guess people went to the Podcage site. Mr. Grizzly, please roll the credits before the show devolves. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. All right, Mr. Grizzly, let's put it up.
Sure, just gotta send it to me. I don't have anything.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was up already.
No.
Sorry, the thing came undone on its own. I guess I waited too long. There we go. All right, kids, please enjoy this. We'll just wait for the image to appear because sometimes it takes a couple of seconds or we need to do it once or twice.
It's actually available on YouTube. We just don't see it.
Okay, we just don't see it?
I'll bring it back up again. Hang on. No, I see it on the YouTube feed.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. All right, then here we go.
It's not playing. Yeah, it's not playing. Oh, I think we lost Mr. Beaver. Yeah, he's frozen. We lost him. Computer borked, I guess. All right, I'm going swimming. I will see you guys later. I don't know why I'm blurry. My it's barely working right now, so I don't know what's happening. Stuff happens. All right, kids. See you tomorrow. Bye.